So for Dr. King, when we think about that, it's not so much about like, oh, peace, peace, peace. It's more so about what is the strategy behind peace. And I think oftentimes they talk about it, but they don't really talk about the propaganda, how you address and create your own propaganda. We think about propaganda as a bad term, but for him, he's looking at how do we change the narrative of showcasing, look, we are not animals. We're all in suits. We look good. We're doing simple things that anybody should be able to do, like vote or sit at a counter or, ride a bus and have any seat that we want because we're all paying the same price. All of these things are important. And they had to showcase the violence, the true, to create this visual discussion on the differences between the reaction of the state versus the reaction of people who are trying to live life in a way that makes sense. And the police state is actively attacking them and making sure that people see that this is not something that is normal. They had to stop normalizing the violence of segregation by showcasing it. And you can't showcase it. There's like a whole subset of people who will blame the victim if people try and fight back, which is a problem. And we saw that a lot.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep it 1,000%. So I got invited to an event that was held at a police station. So I was listening to police tell young people about the legacy of Martin Luther King, and they framed it as peace. His legacy was peace. And I think, like, I was sitting in the audience wondering, are they confusing Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King with Rodney King? Because he was the one that said, "Can't we all get along?" And I'm not under any delusions about the fact that Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King was a Christian minister, but he also had bodyguards that carried guns because he knew that violence could come. He also went to places that were dangerous to talk to people about what they were doing wrong. And so like this idea, like, that's not a strategy for peace. That's a strategy for justice. That's a strategy for equity. And so if we're going to talk about this man who's not here to speak for himself and to talk about the things that he said in his own lifetime, the way he talked about framing injustice in America in economic terms, like responding to the idea that African Americans need to pull themselves up by their bootstraps, but they ain't got no boots. Literally left slavery with nothing. No 40 acres and a mule, no reparations. Was really clear about the fact that there was an economic piece to justice, not just good feelings. And somehow, on some levels, I feel like America has decided that the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King was basically American Jesus, where like he was sacrificed for us to have a better America, as opposed to like this was a man who was murdered in the prime of his life for advocating for poor people, advocating for workers, advocating against war in Vietnam. And at the end of the day, he had a really large megaphone that people were paying attention to, and that there was a great fear in the larger power structure that he would sway more people against war, militarism, the military-industrial complex, not just racial justice, not just poverty, but the way that America operated in the world. Because remember, a huge part of the civil rights movement was about a kind of public shaming of America, who goes around the world lifting up democracy, lifting up equality, but doesn't practice it at home.